Hi, I'm Jonathan with Green Energy Mechanical out of Needham, Mass, right on Oak Street. And a common call that we get during the summertime is, AC system that's up in the attic and it's leaking water. And it's leaking water all over the ceiling. Sometimes it's crumbling the ceiling or causing brown spots or worse, biological growth. So if you have an AC system, could be young, could be old, it doesn't really matter, and it's leaking, you're going to want to listen up. So there could be a few reasons why your AC system is leaking. One of the first questions I like to ask is, who was the company that installed it? How old is the system? Has it been regularly maintained? If the answer is, I don't know when it was installed and it was never maintained, then chances are it's probably a clog in the drain line. So what I like to do is I like to make sure that there's a clean out near the unit. And what that allows us to do is to make sure that that little dip, we call it a P-trap, that's where a lot of the sludge and gunk will line up. And if that happens, you need to have what's called a clean out, where you can go ahead and clean that out. Again, if your system's being regularly maintained, one of the things we do at Green Energy is we always do a light spray down with foaming self-rinsing evaporator coil cleaner. And this is going to just help get all that gunk and stuff off of there anyways. Then we clean out the P-trap so that you don't have to worry about those things. So that's why one of the first questions is, how old is it? Who's been maintaining it? When's the last time it was maintained? Okay. Another reason why your AC system might be leaking in the attic is because it might be low on refrigerant. So what happens is that refrigerant keeps that indoor coil temperature above freezing. But if there's a low amount of refrigerant in the system, the temperature in that coil where the refrigerant is actually going to be colder than 32 degrees. And if that temperature on that coil gets colder than 32 degrees, and so sometimes when we're checking our pressures and the refrigerant pressures are low, it'll say, listen, that evaporator coil is running at 29 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, that's way too cold for it to run. And so when it does, all that humidity that's going to go over that really super cold coil isn't going to condense into a liquid. It's going to turn into ice. And if it's making ice, you know what it's going to make now? A glacier. It's going to make this big, huge ice ball, right? So now after a bunch of time you're trying to run it, it's not cooling at all. Then you call Green Energy. And you say, hey, Green Energy, I'm having a problem. My AC system isn't cooling. I shut it off, and now it's leaking all over my ceiling, and I don't know what to do. And then we'll say, okay, did you shut it off? And you're like, yes, but it's still leaking. It's an emergency. Well, the big reason why that's the case is because that big ice ball, that big glacier, is melting. And it's melting so fast that it can't run through the condensate removal system. It's just leaking all inside the unit and then just dripping out of the ductwork and everything. And it makes a big mess, okay? And it can stain your ceilings. You need to get your ceilings repaired or replaced. If there's a lot of water, sometimes you need to get a mold remediation company in. It's a mess, okay? So the first thing is, if the system doesn't seem to be working that well, just shut it off and call a professional. You can save yourself a lot of headache. The other problem is, let's say it's not leaking yet. You call a professional. We come over. We see it has this big ice ball. We can't do anything. So now we have one of two things. We have to wait until it thaws, or we have to come back at another time, prolonging you from getting back up and running sooner, right? But a lot of times that's what'll happen is the system's icing up, then you shut it off, then it drains off and just makes a huge mess. And it's typically going to be a sign that the refrigerant pressures are low. Now, again, that's a symptom, right? The AC systems shouldn't be low on refrigerant. They're a closed system. So if it's low on refrigerant, we have to look into the root cause of why that's the case. Maybe there's a leak somewhere. Maybe it's something simple like a little Schrader valve outside needs to get tightened or something, right? Maybe there's a little flare nut that needs to get tightened. Checking those things. Sometimes it could be signs of something worse, where there's former carry corrosion, where you have an older system and you have an aluminum copper coil, and over time it starts to disintegrate and the acids in the air and the volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, start to make these little pinhole leaks inside the coil. And that's where, again, you might get a lot of slacker HVAC companies that'll come over and just charge your system up every year for the last 10 years. And you're thinking, oh, this is great. It costs me $300, $400 every year. It's not that bad. Well, over 10 years, it's $4,000 that you've been spending on this system. It's a lot of money. And there's a more serious issue here, which is there's no way to fix that. You have to get a new system at that point. But again, those are all things that we could check. Hopefully it's not one of those things. Perhaps it's literally just simply a lack of maintenance, and having a regular maintenance plan will prevent a lot of those issues, so you don't have to come to it raining in your ceiling. So if you happen to have that as a case, or hopefully maybe you could be preventative and say, hey, like, you know what, I'm watching this and I haven't had anybody come check the system out, give us a call. We have some really great specials all the time when it comes to maintenance. We really just want to help out our local customers. We're fast, we're local, and we'll get you up and running in no time. Thanks.